And welcome into Jmore's JBiz Entrepreneur Series, featuring accomplished entrepreneurs from a variety of industries throughout the greater Baltimore area. I'm your host, Gary Stein. Welcome in. The series is brought to you by Nemphos Braue, offering big firm expertise and boutique service with lawyers experienced in all aspects of business and corporate law. Nemphos Braue focuses on building true strategic partnerships with their clients and strongly supports entrepreneurs and emerging businesses. Their subsidiary, Old Line Government Affairs, provides government relations, procurement, and state lobbying services with strong Maryland relationships and bipartisan access. For more information, go to nemphosbraue.com. Let me spell it for you. It's NEMPHOSBRAUE.com. Today, we bring you the story of a native Clevelander who, along with his brother, relocated to Baltimore to start a family business selling windows, doors, and siding. Today, 15 years and about 400 employees later, Window Nation is the largest non-franchise window company in the country, with a 97% customer rating satisfaction and one of the most clever marketing campaigns you'll see. The president and co-founder, Aaron Magden, joins us today. Aaron, welcome in. How are you doing?
I'm doing. How are you doing?
I was saying beforehand, I love your hairstyle, so thank you very much for doing that.
Right. Easy. I told you, I got here.
I know. Well, I'm not going to show you the top of mine, but so let me understand this, okay? I just want to make certain I get this. A lifelong Browns fan moves to Baltimore, okay, and starts of all places and becomes one of the most highly rated and successful companies in the world. So do I have that right? A lifelong Browns fan coming to Baltimore.
You guys stole my team. Yes, you stole my team, and not thrilled about it. But this is a great area. The economy has been great for years, and it's almost recession-proof with so many government workers. So we took our talents out to Baltimore here.
So I'm going to get the backstory from you in a minute, but I wanted just to start with this particular point, and that is, when you made the decision to move to Baltimore, there were maybe you were looking at 5 or 10 different markets around the country to start, right? So why did you pick Baltimore? What was it?
Yeah, so the first thing is listen, we're from Cleveland. We didn't want to go too far out, right? Because we got a lot of family still there. So we're let's figure out somewhere within driving distance. Let's figure out somewhere where there's a lot of competition, which competition's healthy, right? There's not a lot of competition in a market. You have to sort of second guess things. So we looked there and had a lot of competition. And like I said, the economy is strong here. It's almost recession proof because of the amount of government workers and such. So we said, listen, we looked at Pittsburgh, we looked at Cincinnati, we looked at, areas in New York, and, Baltimore was where we landed.
And give us a little bit of the background of the earlier days, even before you moved to Baltimore. You're from a family that was very successful in the business back in Cleveland.
Yeah, so I basically grew up in this business at the age of 14, working in the warehouse at my father's regional window company. So it was a small company in totality, but in Northeast Ohio, he was the number one player, and he had a huge personality. He was like the Antwerpen, or someone that goes on TV. He's pretty yelling and very charismatic. So my brother and I worked for our father through college, and eventually, about in 2004, my brother and I were essentially running the company, but my dad wanted to retire, so he ended up selling a good portion of the business to private equity. And my brother and I were like, you know what, we still want to be entrepreneurs and work on our own. So we had a non-compete, so we couldn't just reopen in Cleveland. So that's when we started looking at other areas. And then we took some time off from our father's old company, did the research, and that's how we ended up landing in Baltimore.
So a couple of questions about that. At the time when your dad sold to the private equity and you guys made a decision to move, that was probably the time where you could consider any option to stay in the business of windows, doors, and siding, or to do something else. So was there ever a thought on your part to actually do something else? or was it only this business you wanted?
It's funny that you asked that because part of our situation was, you know what, we're like, let's think about doing something different. And we looked at a home theater company. It was a franchise. I don't even know if it's still in business, called Theater Extreme. And coincidentally, they were out of Bel Air, Maryland. So when we went out to Baltimore, you know, my brother and I looked at the operation, and we're like, maybe we just open up one of these franchises in Cleveland. And this is like what, 05, 06. And, you know, we leave there and we're like, you know, this looks like a good opportunity. But I go, Harley, you know, I'll tell you what, if the economy tanks, the last thing that they're going to buy is a home theater. And, you know, we looked at each other and we're like, you know what, let's stick with what we know best. And you know what happened in 08? The whole thing crashed.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah. So it was obviously a smart decision on our part. And we decided to stay in the business that we know.
So let's pick it up from there. You come to Baltimore. Oh, and by the way, let's actually back up just a minute. You guys were familiar with Baltimore, right? Your family, your dad had taken you on some summer trips to Ocean City, to Baltimore to see the harbor. So you had some access to the place beforehand, correct?
Yeah, we have a few relatives out here, but yeah, we came out to the harbor a few times. You know, stayed at the Hyatt, Regency down there was like the place to be.
Right.
We went out to Ocean City a handful of times. So yeah, so we knew the area, and you know, that's why we did have some comfort about Baltimore as well.
So let's talk about it then. 05, 06, you guys come out and you make a conscious decision to do windows and doors because potentially the economy, something happens, and you know, theater would be the last thing that people would want. And that's exactly what happened. 07, 08, the Great Recession, banking, etc., plunges. What happened to Window Nation at that time?
We grew and we continued to grow. And why? Well, Windows within itself is almost recession proof, recession resistant. It's one of the only home improvement projects that you can do that has a payback story, right? So I could do my kitchen, I could do my bath. Those are all wants, okay? What we're selling is a need. People are either going to do two things. One of two things. They're going to pay BGE for their high energy bill, or they're going to pay us and get new windows, and there's a payback story. So people were, you know, at that time, they had an energy tax credit, and the government was given 30% up to $1,500 if they bought new windows. So the economy was going this way, but people were incentivized that if they got new windows, that they would get up to $1,500 back. So, you know, a lot of companies, you know, didn't want to spend the money and advertise, where we went all in and said, listen, we're going to take market share. And we capitalized on an opportunity where everyone else was, you know, losing money and going out of business.
How long did it take you to start expanding around the country?
So our second location was Northern Virginia, which was about 12 months after that. And then bittersweet, our third location was in Cleveland, right? So that's where we're from. We know everybody. We know the market by the back of our hand. And lo and behold, about 18 months later, we put our father's old company out of business.
Really?
Yeah.
So the private equity firm that bought your dad's company, you went up against and you beat them.
Yep. Yeah.
What do you credit that to?
Well, you know, you got to understand this business, and you got to understand, you know, the products, the way the consumer thinks, the installation, and they took basically people that were business savvy but didn't understand this business, and they, you know, they were focused on, you know, they're more the bean counters as opposed to running a business. You know, it's like I said, it's a niche business. It's not, you know, we're not selling widgets, and it's a different experience when you're going to people's houses, providing a presentation, providing a high quality product. You know, the labor is very challenging in this sector, and they just tried to apply the same principles that they had selling cabinets and selling, you know, everything else. and it didn't jive.
Always provide a great product with red carpet service at a fair price. That's kind of your business motto / philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, this is my thought. I mean, anyone that starts to jump into a home improvement project, they've seen either on TV or whatever scams, people getting taken advantage of,
Yeah.
high pressure sales. And that sort of was like, what they did, in the 70s and 80s. And quite frankly, it was still going on. So my brother and I were like, listen, how do we take what dad taught us and take it to a new era where we implement technology in the way we go to business, the products that we sell, the materials that we use within the installation, the way that we have so much control over things to ensure an amazing experience. Because at the end of the day, what are we selling? Glass and plastic, right? So, and with how Amazon has changed the world, everyone wants everything within, it wasn't overnight. Now it's, it's the same day. Now it's within, hours. So customer service and convenience are huge factors. And we basically took a spin and we're like, listen, we're going to get the best product. We're going to be able to sell at an aggressive price. The turnaround time is going to be fast. And we're not going to, play the games with the consumers where, they come out today, finish half the job, then next week, the other part of the job. I mean, it's just second to car sales, home improvement just has a bad rap.
Absolutely. We're going to pick it up with Aaron Magden, president and co-founder of Window Nation, in just a second. A quick reminder, though, that Jmore's JBiz Entrepreneur Series is brought to you by Nemphos Braue, offering big firm expertise and boutique service with lawyers experienced in all aspects of business and corporate law. Nemphos Braue strongly supports entrepreneurs and emerging businesses. Their subsidiary, Old Line Government Affairs, provides government relations, procurement, and estate lobbying services with strong Maryland relationships and bipartisan access. How do you pick your markets, Aaron? You're opening up new markets as we speak: Dallas, Minnesota, Minneapolis, I should say, Nashville, Austin, Texas, all hot markets today. How do you pick them?
Well, we have a big map, and basically we take a dart and we go. One time it hit Alaska, and I was like, "Yeah, we have to do." No, but there's certain things that we look for. It has to be a top 50 DMA, which is to be one of the top 50 markets. We look for the age of home. We look for the marketing side. Is TV a good fit here? Is radio a good fit here? What's the costs of the various things? And we look at the competition. We look at the labor in the unemployment levels at the certain area, and then we just start narrowing them down. And then we try to open up 3 to 5 markets now each year.
Gotcha. So it's interesting that you talk about your dad's marketing philosophy back in the old days in Cleveland, how he was, like, as you say, the kind of the Antwerp, and people in Baltimore are going to know that, the Antwerp of Cleveland, where he'd get up there and kind of do outrageous things and, Jack says yes and all that kind of stuff. But you guys don't do that. You and your brother Harley are much more low key. Talk about that and why you are kind of the way you are.
It's interesting. I don't know if we're so low key per se, but we play off each other. So we're the brothers, we're the founders, and we sort of make fun of each other. If you've ever seen the commercials before,
sure.
I'm sort of like the jokester, and then Harley's the more calm person. But at the end of the day, we want to convey a message to homeowners within those commercials. We talk about our competitive advantages, whether it's our customer satisfaction rate, whether it's, how we go about measuring the windows, whether we go about, the training that our consultants go through. We always incorporate that into the creative in our commercials.
Well, speaking of the creative, one of the more creative partnerships that you guys do is with Mina Hawk, the Two Chicks and a Hammer, also on HGTV's Good Bones. Talk a little bit about that and what you wanted to get out of that and the result from that so far.
Well, I mean, listen, Mina has a huge following. She's charismatic and funny, and everyone thought that we would be a good match with her
in terms
of partnering up. And she needed windows as well for all of her properties. So, my one of my marketing directors reached out to her people, and they're like, listen, I think we could put something together that would be amazing. And she saw the quality of our work and the quality of our windows and said, listen, obviously I'm not just gonna, do something because you're gonna pay me. I gotta believe in everything. And she loved everything that we did. And it really hit off, and we had a lot of fun shooting commercials with her. And people like it. They can relate. And she's a nice, down-to-earth person, and it's been really fun working with her.
Talk about just being an entrepreneur in general. Like, what is your life like? How do you manage the business, your family, your kids are growing up, like the day-to-day stuff that anybody has to do, but you have a big business to run, as well as your personal family
I would
stuff.
describe it as organized chaos. Listen, it's all about the people. If we have the right people working for us and to get the job done and follow our core values, it could be somewhat of an easy business. But, when we first were starting out and through the first 5 years, I mean, listen, it was working 80 hours a week. We had our hands in everything. I would be going on appointments. I mean, you really have to, when you're starting off as an entrepreneur and you have that entrepreneur mind is, we're assertive, we're aggressive, we're fast paced. We want to get things done. We make decisions quick. But as to the point we're at now, where we have actually 600 employees, 19 markets that we're in, 28 locations. It's about people, processes, and doing the right thing. And when I come to work every day, no matter what problem I have at home, they'll see me smiling, laughing, and you got to create that fun culture. People leave jobs not because it's like, this is a terrible job. They leave it because of the culture or their managers. It's not all just about the pay. So, we create a great culture here that people love to work here. And I think that, if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your customers.
How would you describe your culture?
I would describe it as entrepreneurial, family oriented, not a stuffy environment. So, you can come in here and joke around a little bit. No one's in suit and ties, and it's just all about, our core values of taking care of our people, results oriented. We wouldn't do something that, if we wouldn't do it, when it comes to even to my brother and I, we wouldn't expect someone else to do it.
Speaking of core values, Aaron, there's a concept in Judaism called Gemilut Chasadim, which means helping others. And I know that you guys are very much into the philanthropy, working with organizations around the community. Can you talk a little bit about that and that core value specifically?
Yeah, so personally, my brother and I are big into philanthropy and do donate to a lot of organizations, specifically, within our temples and around the Jewish community. But in terms of, we have Window Nation Cares, and we allocate money for all of our markets to help others. So, for instance, a few years ago, when the Ellicott City, downtown Ellicott City got flooded, people lost their homes, they lost this, they lost that. We donated, windows and installed them. There was a gentleman out in, I believe, Frederick, who called us and said, "Listen, I'm close to dying. I'm in dire need for windows. Can you help us out? Can you give us a discount?" And we were the only company to come out there, and I gave his family windows at no charge. We do Habitat for Humanity, tons of different charities, Coats for Kids, all that kind of stuff. That's near and dear to our heart. We've been very successful and very blessed and fortunate, and we want to share the love, if you will.
And now you've got the opportunity to branch out. We should talk about the deli, the Jewish deli in Fulton, Maryland, Howard County.
Right. I mean, every window owner has to open up a deli, right? So, there's some great delis in Cleveland. And when I moved out here, I'm like, where are the good delis, right? And
There's
they're
not
like,
a lot of them.
well, you could go to Atman's. And I'm like, I'm not schlepping downtown and waiting in those huge lines and such. And then, there's a few other places that, that I won't name, but I just really didn't see anything, even in DC, I just really didn't see anything great. So, I lost my dad in 2018, who's like my absolute best friend. And we used to always go to like delis and stuff together. That was just like the place where we go and grab a bite, whether it's for lunch or just to talk business or whatever. Or like when my grandfather and him were talking business, they drag us there. So I love deli food. So we're like, you know what if we opened up a deli called Mikey and Mel's? I mean, it sounds like the perfect thing. I'm like, that's great. We should do it, but we have no clue what we're doing. So we ended up meeting someone that really knew and understand the business. And we put together a plan, and, it's 4 doors down from our headquarters here in Maple Lawn in Fulton, Maryland. And we offer the most amazing sandwiches, deli food that you can get. And it's called Mikey and Mel's. And it reminds me every time I walk in there, I look at the sign and look at Mikey, and Mel was our grandfather. And, it just reminds me of him every day or every time I go in there. So we serve like huge overstuffed sandwiches. There's a bunch of different specialty sandwiches named after various people, whether they're famous or myself. We have a huge pickle bar, right? All you can eat pickles, which
Love it.
Who doesn't love a great pickle, right?
Right.
And then, most of the stuff we make is in-house. I mean, we have desserts that are just out of this world. Fresh, the corned beef is, amazing. The pastrami, we have tongue, we have chopped liver, all the old school, Jewish delights that people love. And, most of it's homemade.
So just to be clear, Mikey is your dad and Mel was your grandfather.
Yep.
So they would go to the deli back in Cleveland and you would go with them?
Yeah. So like when I was younger, they'd be like, all right, come on, get in the car.
Come on. Yeah.
I gotta talk to grandpa, and you sit there and eat the food, and then I'll take you to whether it was kindergarten or whatever. And then as time elapsed, I was like, I wanted to go with them if they were going to hang out, or just, I was like, Dad, hey, listen, I want to get a great corned beef sandwich. So we would go there. And then I'm just like, I love deli food. So like I go to New York and, been to all those places, but I've been to literally hundreds and hundreds of delis across the country. And like, I would rather eat a good corned beef sandwich than a filet, right? I just, that's just something about us. And we did a little Cleveland touch to our deli.
Oh,
there's
what is that?
Well, so there's a special mustard that they sell at the Cleveland Indians, or now Guardians Stadium, called Stadium Mustard, and it's out of this world. So it's interesting. The story was actually, so we brought all this Stadium Mustard out here to sell it, but in the grand opening, we donated a decent amount of money, and our buddy went to Cleveland. Biked to Cleveland.
Biked to Cleveland?
Biked to Cleveland.
Like bicycled?
Like bicycle. Biked to
wow.
Cleveland.
Okay.
He went to the place where they make it, grabbed 1 bottle of Stadium Mustard, and the day that we opened, he came all the way back, and we saw, like, there's the TV stations and everyone were there of him biking back to Mikey and Mel's to deliver that Stadium Mustard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. How long does it take to bicycle from Cleveland back to here?
I think it took him like 2.5 days, maybe.
Right. And he had an entourage with him, like a car following him or something, or no?
No, he just did it by
He just did it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems to me like you can talk about Mikey and Mel's all day just as well as you can talk about Window Nation.
Yeah, listen, I'm passionate about things that we do, and we do it right. And whether it's sandwiches, windows, it's we want to be number one in that category.
Yep, sounds good. So just a couple quick questions to basically end it here. Looking back, so 15 years. So here you are. We documented the fact that you're the largest non-franchise window company in the country. Could you have imagined? I mean, just take a quick look back at that journey for a minute.
Not in a million years. I mean, it's totally the American dream. My brother and I started it, and we slowly, we started opening up more locations. And we thought like 3 or 4 locations, that would be great. But we are so driven that we're like, listen, let's keep, if it's scalable, let's keep replicating, what we're doing. And, that led to more and more and more and more locations. Sure, you're going to have challenges. Nothing's easy. If it was easy, it'd be, we're going to.
Everybody would do it.
Right. And it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Like I said, we have close to 600 employees, come to work every day, still grind it out. Because I want to make sure that, I have a lot of people, we have a lot of people that depend on my brother and I, a lot of families. So, to us, to my brother and I, money is not, it's not the thing that drives us. It's the people, and it's taking care of not only our people being employees, but taking care of our customers.
One piece of advice to somebody who would like to be an entrepreneur that maybe is going through that process right now, figuring out what they may want to do.
Take the leap. I mean, I talk to so many people who are like, well, I'm at this job and I'm content and I really want to do X, but, I'm really, afraid, or I'm nervous, or, it's like, listen, it's never going to be the right time. Right. And you gotta sometimes, take that leap of faith and give it a shot. And sure, you're going to fail. Did we fail? Sure. There's multiple times that we failed, but, they say, failing is just one step closer to being successful, and you got to learn from your failures. But yeah, I just urge people, listen, you want to work for yourself, do your own thing, call your own shots. It's going to be a blood, sweat, and tears and 100 hours a week working. But at the end of the day, you created something, and not only did, my brother and I just start this small company, now we've created something that we almost have national presence. Like I said, we employ, just our employees is 600. Plus, if you have our installers who are contracts, 1099s, you probably have another 500-600, people that rely on us. So it's the feeling is, it's great that we have got to where we've gotten, and that we help so many people. And that's what drives me.
One of the things that I talk about, or that entrepreneurs talk to us about all the time, is, and kind of you just hit on it, you never know how close you are as you're going through the journey. You never know how close you are until you make it. Like, it could be that next call. It could be that next meeting. It could be the next person you meet. You never know unless you grind through and meet those people, call those people, communicate, and make it happen. So you never know how close you are.
Yeah, and listen, you got to have a little luck, right? There's always a little luck in life to get you to where you need to be. But listen, it's all about taking that leap and having faith in yourself, in your abilities, and it's the American dream.
So how did the Browns do this year with their new quarterback, before I let you go?
I'm glad there's no more Baker. I didn't think we were going to get Deshaun, but once he clears up all the nonsense, I think that we're Super Bowl bound. I mean, we got the best running backs in the game. We have great defense. We got Myles Garrett and Clowney, and we have some great wide receivers. I mean, we just picked up Amari Cooper. We have Jarvis Landry. We got some good tight ends, but the Browns will figure out a way to F it up.
I tell you what, history does show that.
Yeah, we've won, and it's just like Cleveland. The Indians. I was at that.
Well, the Guardians now, but yeah,
right, the Guardians. I was at that Cubs series, went to multiple games. We're up 3-1. We're like, we got this in the bag.
If I'm not mistaken, last Indians World Series went 1948 or something
Yeah.
along those
Yeah,
lines.
it's 48, yeah. It's like that,
48.
48.
So we're
Yeah.
coming up on 75 years. Aaron
Yeah.
Magden, we really appreciate you joining us, my friend. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Absolutely. And to our viewers, I say so long, stay well, and we'll meet again soon for another installment of Jmore's JBiz Entrepreneur Series, which is brought to you by our good friends at Nemphos Braue, supporting corporate growth at every stage of business. You can learn more about Nemphos Braue and what they can do for you by logging on at nemphosbraue.com. Aaron, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
You got it.